Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon for those of you who are on the other side of the Atlantic, and good evening for those of you who might be um, farther east than that. We're glad to have you. Welcome to our webinar, Breaking Down 2024 Online Holiday Retail Threats. This is based on a report that was released today of the same name, 2024 Online Holiday Retail Threats Report. And that was written by our two presenters, Abu Qureshi, Threat Intelligence and Disruption Lead at BforeAI, and Rishika Desai, Threat Researcher at BforeAI. And I helped write the report. My name is Andy Georginas. I am the Director of Brand and Product Marketing at BforeAI. We welcome you, and we'll be getting started here very shortly with the presentation, just giving people 1 second to kind of jump in. But we're going to go ahead and officially introduce the presenters. So we have with us today Rishika Desai, visiting us from India. Welcome, Rishika. Glad to have you. And Abu Qureshi in Toronto, Canada, and myself in Maryland in the US. So welcome. Glad to have you. And we'll let you two kind of set the stage. But I'll just start by saying this is a timely report based on primarily major retailers. So the retailers that sell retail products at a large bulk scale, and the ways that they're being leveraged for online scams and malicious activity in external asset situations. So Abu, I'll hand it over to you, and I'll stop talking now so that you guys can get started.
Thanks very much, Andy. Yes, I'd like to welcome everyone for joining us today. As mentioned, we are going to be discussing the sorry, slide. Going to be discussing the an introduction to the retail threat landscape. And before we dive into the key findings, just want to sort of give a brief overview of the report and what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to be going through an overview of the increase in DNS abuse and cybercrime and scams that target the retail industry, particularly through the holiday season and the upticks in sales during the season and other high traffic seasons. Um, so during this time, we have a lot of increased consumer traffic driving traffic to these e-commerce sites, as well as related infrastructure that is put up in relation to holiday spikes. Because of that, it also attracts a lot of cyber criminals. There's a larger volume of transactions taking place during this time, which results in a larger attack surface. There's a lot of opportunities to trick consumers into revealing personal information, PII, financial information, but also other tactics and other motives, which we'll dive into. There's also lowered consumer vigilance during this time. There's a psychological component where, with heightened spending and promotional offers, consumers become less cautious and more susceptible to scams like false discounts and relating to phishing and counterfeit apps that we've also observed during this period. The fraud is also during this time more targeted because it exploits the retailers' seasonal promotions and parades and other activities going on during this time, um, which retailers are obviously busier during this time. So brand imitation and seasonal scams are leveraged much stronger to trick consumers into um, fraudulent transactions and scams in general. So now we'll dive into the findings here on the slide. And I'm going to hand it over to Rishika for this.
Thank you, Abu. So, as we've seen, it's the holiday season, and with it also comes a threat for the retailers and also the consumers. So, in the past 90 days, we have observed that around 6,000 domains were registered, and over 60% of them were mimicking giant retailers such as Walmart, there was Amazon, there was Flipkart. And that being said, you can see the statistics on the slide. I hope the slide is visible. Yeah. So this was the distribution that we observed in the last 90 days, where Walmart took the majority of the threat or the brand that was impacted the most, followed by Amazon. Reason being simple that it is one of the most popular retailers out there, out of which 185 were confirmed malicious. So how do we define whether a domain is malicious or not? One indicator was that it was recently registered, and the second one being that it had active content on it, mimicking or being strikingly similar to the original website. So, with that being said, we also saw some unique techniques that the attackers were using. For example, there was typo squatting, and there was a frequent use of typical retail keywords such as shop, sale, limited editions, and many like that. So, these websites also had top level domains which could not be trustworthy. For example, we know that .com could be trusted easily, but can we trust a .shop? Can we trust a .vip or .xyz? So that being said, these TLDs were commonly used with the retailer's name in to form a domain name to trick the customers. We also had some websites that used to enhance credibility of the fake sites, and they used to have a very similar content which would ensure that customers would likely fall for the scam. That being said, we also observed some domains that were dating back to 2013 also. While they are not actively part of this report, but they had a generic domain name which helped them to evade detection. But the subdomain used to have a name of the retailer. Some of the websites that were recently registered in 2024 also had non-standard characters, and they also had some manipulated spellings. So, which all in all resulted for the domain being active and also being a part of the campaign. Out of the 185 actively malicious websites that we saw, they were also delivering fake applications, which are also capable of infecting the device of the victim who is surfing on that website. And they would also make the victim reach or redirect to an unauthorized website to download these applications. Of course, might containing a malware or might containing methods to harvest credentials or other sensitive information. So, which also is a part of an elongated campaign where ransomware attacks could take place. So, this was one of the trend that we saw in this current retail threat landscape report. Another being some direct fakes which were used to gather credit card information, or which could be a way to directly gather all the financial information of the victims who were landing on the website. With that being said, I would like to hand over to Abu.
Thank you very much, Rishika. So we'll head over to the next slide to talk about trends um, in cyber attack in cyber in holiday retail threat trends and methods that we observed. So we had three particularly interesting trends that we wanted to highlight in the report as well as the presentation here. Obviously, these are not exclusive. We saw um, other trends as well, but these were three that we felt were a little bit of higher importance given their relevance as well as their usage. So starting with crypto scams, mixing in crypto scams into and investment scams into retail sites was something we saw becoming more common during our research. Sites were encouraging users to link their cryptocurrency wallets to their um, accounts for checkout, which was being used and enabling the attackers to capture login credentials and potentially drain funds. And we believe it's heightened around the holidays because users might be more susceptible to crypto discounts and investment opportunities around crypto. And obviously, as we as we know, the anonymity and untraceability of crypto transactions as a whole has a part to play here. But that was definitely an interesting vector that we saw, was tying in crypto wallets and crypto investment scams into the retail, um, into fake retail sites. Another was the use of affiliate partners and their content to redirect targets to fraudulent sites. This was, we believe, used as a method to attract new victims to these networks of using trusted promoters or trusted sites. And this includes like fake reviews, sponsored content to try and enhance the credibility of the target site. And also, there's a lot of affiliate scams that were capitalizing on the urgency, so using discounts and limited time offers to encourage more engagement and moving people, directing the traffic to the threat from the affiliate page. And we have an example of this in the report. I believe it's a Walmart example. And then as well for crypto, we have in the report an Amazon target encouraging the use of linking crypto wallets to check out on the fraudulent site. We also observed heightened use of chatbots, AI leveraging chatbots being used in conjunction to online frauds. So these are simulated discussions through the chatbots, which are imitating customer service responses. Not only does that create a sense of legitimacy, but it also leads users to interact. And in those interactions, fraud is also taking place. Sensitive data is being transmitted and compromised using the chatbots as well. It also leads to streamlined data collection. So chatbots are engaging in using AI in personalized conversations, where gaining trust from the user and extracting valuable information over time, including payment details and PII. I'm going to pass it over to Rishika to talk about some more trends from the report.
Thank you, Abu. So, with the holiday season, cybercriminals did launch some of the websites that mentioned keywords such as biggest scams, or a popularly known keyword called as Big Billion Days. While we see these websites right now, it is not necessary that they were recently registered. Some of the preparations, like we have seen, started months ago. But why was it that scammers targeted most the holiday season for the retail, so that consumers would fall victim to it? So the reason is, for this campaign to be successful during the holiday season, consumers are most likely to shop impulsively, and the sense of security awareness tends to dabble because of some offers that are either too good to be true, or they are either for a limited time, and the sense of thinking before acting tends to double bit during the holiday season. We have seen unique keywords used by the cyber criminals in their campaign. For example, like I said, Big Billion Days is a very commonly known keyword for Flipkart sale. Whenever Flipkart, which is an Indian retailer, announces its sale, they tend to use the word Big Billion Days. So we approximately saw around 1,500 domains of such nature, where either the page title was same, either the website was same, and all of them were also registered in October. So with that, we also see a lot of events are coming up. For example, there's Black Friday. For example, there's Cyber Monday, or even there is end of the year sales. With all of these occasions coming up and coincidentally falling during the last quarter of the year, it is a chance for cybercriminals to attract victims using such popular keywords when it comes to retailers. So, with the holiday season coming, it's a chance to capitalize. And it is not just that, okay, they have set up a website and then it's done. What actually happens is, when a website is set up, additional elements also come into picture. Additional features such as social media ads or even email marketing is something that cybercriminals use. These platforms tend to reach to the masses instantly. These platforms also have the capabilities to be present one day. For example, the accounts are present one day and they might vanish later on. So Because of the quick nature of such accounts and the possibility to reach a larger audience who are also, by the way, looking for similar kind of ads, through which, how algorithm decides what ad is going to be seen by the customers. This is a good opportunity for criminals to use all of these external features and make sure that their campaign, end of the year or the holiday campaigns, is successful. That being said, during the busy season, cyber criminals are taking advantage of the lower vigilance of the consumers, and also because of the uniquely high or especially high online shopping activity, as highlighted by Abu before. We are going to break them down in our next month's webinar, so stay tuned for the details. With that, I think we are going to discuss the point where how high profile retail brands are the frequent targets by cyber criminals, for which I'm going to hand over to Abu.
Thank you, Rishika. We can move on to the next slide here. Thank you. So we talked a little bit about the brands that are being targeted, but it's the real victims is not only the big brands. There's more ripple effects and also more targets as a whole. With those targets, we noticed that large, high-profile retail brands are the largest during this season, and using leveraging different things like social media and marketplaces, but also customers. Their customers at the end are some of the people who suffer the results of the fraud. Um, with most of the credential harvesting and the phishing and the theft of PII and financial information being directed uh, directly at the consumer. We talked a bit about the affiliate program participants. They're also a large target. So partner merchant sites, marketplaces are also getting impersonated to leverage the uptick during the holiday trend. Also, employees. There are seasonal employees and higher count of employees overall, and temporary employees that come in during retail booms, which may not be as cybersecurity aware as typical employees are. So we see also internal pages impersonated. So login pages for internal workplace sites, um, mimicking of scheduling software as well, and the retailer themselves, obviously. We talked in detail about that, as well as third-party vendors. Just utilizing the supply chain as a whole. So any vendor that has to do with that retailer is also a big target um, to be a victim of the frauds taking place during this time. So as we start to wrap it up, we want to draw attention to um, sort of what sort of vigilance can be taken and what mitigation steps can be taken by both retailers and consumers. So I'll let Rishika talk about the customer and the consumer focus. You can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Abu. That being said, it's very important to be vigilant about all the threats that are happening in retail, because not just not just anybody in particular, but you, me, and everyone are a part of this retail ecosystem. And especially during peak shopping periods, it's quite possible to fall for the lucrative offers, to fall for the scams that is happening. So besides organization, even customers can take some steps to stop from becoming a victim of such campaigns. One of the most important thing is to identify whether we are visiting the trusted retailer website or not. It can be possible that most of the scammy promotions or advertisements can land up in your email or inboxes, and they might take you to a third party website. But if you see a particular advertisement which is too good to be true, I think that is one of the warnings that we should be careful and that website should not be visited. Otherwise, if that deal is definitely true, you can always visit the trusted retailer's original website. If you have doubts about it, you can simply make a search on the search engine and make sure that you're landing on the legitimate websites itself. That being said, it's obviously, it does make sense to avoid deals that are too good to be true, and it to make sure that you are using secure payment methods. Most of the retailers make sure that the payment happens from their website itself. Anything that is transferring you to a third party website for the payment might be one of the signs that the website you are dealing with is not legitimate. You can also check whether some basic steps, that if a website is using HTTPS or not, or if there is a padlock signature present on the website where you're doing a financial transaction. So at the end of the day, I would say, if a website feels suspicious, there is quite a chance that it is suspicious. And one of the steps which we as consumers can take is to be a little vigilant, and such small steps taken on a large scale can be effective in deterring a cyber criminal. Besides this, I hope you find this useful, and I would like to highlight the importance of cyber vigilance for organizations during this retail period. Abu, over to you.
Thank you so much. For retailers, it's really important to have, particularly during this season, and to be able to manage the volume of the infrastructure being set up to perform these perform the fraud, is focused preemptive monitoring. So particularly during the holiday season, increase monitoring for phishing sites mimicking and impersonating your brand, and malicious infrastructure being stood up targeting your brand. You can utilize AI-driven tools to preemptively detect um, and deter these attacks, in many cases even before they go live. So this kind of approach is would be very effective to manage and mitigate these threats proactively. Also, consumer phishing awareness campaigns is another item that is very useful for the retailer to put up for their consumers and customers. So heightened education around this time, particularly about sales campaigns and how the phishing risk is around those promotional campaigns during the holidays, and sharing that with your audience, with your customers, um, goes a long way as well. Thank you very much. Over to you, Andy.
Thanks, guys. That was a great session. We're going to take a few minutes if anyone has questions. We are going to start with one here. We are trying to be respectful of everyone's time, so we'll get started with a seed question to get things started. We're curious. I mean, we could probably guess this, but would love some elaboration. What's the motivation behind phishing and fake apps in retail scams? I mean, what are the drivers?
I can take it. Uh, so the primary motivation is financial, number one. Um, Collecting and harvesting user data, which is being used in these transactions, particularly in shopping carts, which includes PII, credit card info. Even for tracking information, you have things like addresses and phone numbers for identity theft as well. Um, we do observe that the data collected ultimately goes on to commit other frauds as well. So there's the financial angle, but also the harvesting and sale of consumer data that's collected. Even beyond direct sale, other data that's harvested through the retail scam goes on for other unauthorized purchases. So again, more financial motives, using that collected data to tailor new phishing campaigns, and further frauds. It really just perpetuates a cycle of attacks once the data is harvested.
I would like to add a point to this. Yeah. At the end of the day, it really is financial, right? So even though if you see a website that is trying to deliver a malware, or it is taking you to an unauthorized website, probably to collect your PII, that is so that in return, let's suppose in case of malware, a ransomware could be implanted and a ransom could be asked. So At the end of the day, even if we see the motivation directly or indirectly, it will come down to finance. However, the methods may differ.
Gotcha. Thanks. So, um, so that's really helpful. And I see, a similar question came in, and I think that we more or less kind of covered that one in the previous answer. I want to open it up and make sure that nobody else has any questions regarding the report or anything covered in today's talk. But I'll assume that we don't have any additional questions, and we will close today's session. Thanks everyone for joining. Please check out the report. And really importantly, in a month from now, Rishika and Abu are going to jump back on another webinar, and we're going to see what's happened since now. We covered 90 days previously, and these vectors are changing, morphing, and trends are changing with them. And so we're going to reanalyze all of that and see if there were any surprises, if any approaches kind of fell off or things increased, and reanalyze this from that perspective as we're getting really close to the end of the year. So we hope that you can join us for that. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you at the next one. Thanks, Abu and Rishika, for the great report and the great information.
Thank you,
Have a great
Andy.
day, everyone.